Welcome to the Slow Living Collective podcast. I'm Amy, wife, mother of two and devoted homemaker. Join me on this journey as we explore the beauty of slow and simple living, where life unfolds at its own unhurried pace. I'll take you through my experiences of slowing down, tending to our allotment plot, finding joy in the little things and making the most of our small home. Together we'll learn to live in harmony with the ever-changing seasons, discovering the magic that lies in embracing the present moment. So let's embark on this enriching adventure towards a more intentional and fulfilling life. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Slow Living Collective podcast. I am Amy, and if you're new here, hi, welcome to the podcast. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back and allowing me to drop into your earbuds. Today I have a super exciting conversation for you. I know, I say it all the time, I know. But every conversation I have is amazing, and I am so lucky I get to do what I do. Today I have Sam on with me, and we are talking about toys and play, particularly from the perspective of parenting neurodiverse children. So let's dive straight into it and hear from Sam. Hi Sam, thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast episode. Before we dive into it, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about who you are?
Okay, so I'm Sam, I'm 34, been married for 6 years now. I have a son, Logan, who's 10, and then I have Evie, who is 6, and Molly, who is 4, nearly 5. I used to work for a pension company managing properties, but when Molly was born 5 years ago, she was born with a rare syndrome and she had to have a tube to be fed, and we spent a lot of time in hospital, and it became apparent that I would have to quit my job. So I became a stay-at-home parent carer, and that's what I've done for the last 5 years, and delved into the whole world of toys and house and decluttering and everything else. So kind of life took a little spin, but that's what happened basically.
Excellent. So today we're going to talk about motherhood, and particularly, like you said, we're going to talk about play and toys, particularly in neurodiverse children. So maybe you could share your story about what motivated you to dive deeper into the topic of play and toy selection.
So when Evie was born, so Logan was about 3.5 when she was born. He was very much a typical a boy, like loved his trains, loves his cars. So he was very into Thomas and everything. So as far as I was concerned, he played, he had his favorite toys and he played with them. He played various different ways. But it wasn't until Evie came along, and she was probably about 1 when I realized something was probably a little bit different with her. She was a very chilled baby, very chilled. So we obviously thought, this is so easy, we're going to have one more straight away. So I was kind of already pregnant again by the time we realized that we might have a little bit more of a challenge on our hands. She definitely played different from other children. She seemed quite happy just watching. She wasn't really interested in a lot of different toys. If you gave her something to play with, she would sort of have a little look at it and interest in it, but she didn't play typically how Logan was. He was kind of into everything, picking everything up. And we kind of just noticed that she would like to balance on things a lot. She liked a lot of rough and tumble play. She loved watching Logan play, and she would just laugh at him. And I sort of added a few different things together, things like her not sort of responding to her name. She didn't really startle when there was loud noises or turn to look at things. She's kind of like in her own little world. And I sort of approached the subject with the health visitor. I said, I think that Evie might be autistic because of the A, B, and C. And we sort of started our journey then on sort of getting help and support for her, and understanding how she was going to be a bit different and how we'd have to sort of adjust our lives to make things easier for her, easier for us. And obviously that involved a lot of our day-to-day routines and toys and everything else. So we sort of started on that journey, and then, like I said, I was already pregnant again with Molly at that point. And when she was born, obviously with her rare syndrome, we then had tube feeding in the mix as well. So suddenly I had two children under two, with sort of extra needs, one that hated going out of the house and socializing, and one that used to just be sick every time I left the house. And she had a tube on her face, and everyone would look at us, and I basically became a little recluse, stuck in the house. And that is sort of when I said, you know what, we can't easily go to places, we can't go to baby groups, we can't go to soft play and all the other places, you like the farm, etc., you might take children. And I thought, I'm going to invest in some good toys at home, and we're going to invest in our garden, and we're going to just, create a safe space that they can play in, that they feel comfortable in, that I feel comfortable in. And that's sort of when I delved deeper into looking at the types of toys that were in our house, what we could do to work around Evie, what we could do to incorporate therapy play, everything like that. Sort of that was my main focus with changing how we were going to do things at home.
And you have like, I've followed you for many years on Instagram. You have like the most beautiful setups. Basically, me and you, I often think like we'll watch each other and then we're just like, oh, I'm now gonna like declutter this or redo this so many times.
Yeah, definitely. I get so inspired by seeing other people's stories, and like you do like a change around of the cubes, and I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Or like when you were like, I'm gonna do a little theme like your seasonal stuff, I'm like, oh, I love that. I'm gonna collect a few books up that are the same stuff. Like it really helps. And it for me, because I didn't have like that work life, that social life outside, Instagram and following people that had the same values and ideas was really helpful. It definitely gave me like a purpose as such, and how we were going to work our day around, and saying, actually, that looks like that will really works for you. Like I loved your tinker box, like the morning tinker box thing. I was like, this is great, I'm going to set up a few things, and it totally works. Like just other people's little ideas that help you change, like, oh yeah, that might work for us. And obviously everything doesn't work for everyone, but I think definitely there's ideas there you can grasp and try and adjust for
Yeah,
yourself at home.
absolutely. And I still have it like in my back pocket that I want to get like the Trofast set up for because we're going to move, hopefully.
Yeah,
And so we were going to redo our living room, but then we decided actually, no, let's move and let's do it there instead.
yeah,
And so
definitely.
I still keep in that like in the background because I always see like all of your setup and I'm like, I want it, I want it.
Yeah, I've always changing as well. Like as the children have got older, I've adjusted like our setup. So I basically have a rotation of IKEA furniture that goes on in my garage, and I just pull stuff out again. And it really depends. Like when Molly was like a baby and they were babies, so we had a lot of the cubes on the floor because that was their sort of area of access. And then as they got a bit bigger, I got the benches out, because then they were sort of pulling to stand and investigating toys there. And then they could do the finding things in drawers, so they had the Trofast. And like we've actually just I haven't put it on Instagram properly yet because I haven't finished it, obviously. But we've now sort of got some new Ivan like open things, because Molly's now at the age where she's not like just getting stuff out and dumping it out like children do sometimes. She's actually like looking in cupboards for what she wants to play with. So we've sort of moved a bit more of our toy rotation inside the house, and she's got more of an open choice plan. And it also allowed me to put more of the craft stuff inside the house, because I had a lot of it in the garage, and it was sort of like she'd be like, oh, can I play Play-Doh? And I sort of had to go out to get it all in. But now she can play Play-Doh every day because it's in the cupboard. So yeah, I sort of adjusted it again because they're now that bit older. And so I'm like, everyone always goes, why are you always changing it around? It's like, because their needs change,
Yeah.
their interests. Like Molly is very into like her writing, and she loves cutting up little bits of paper, and she writes little things. And she's obviously doing a lot of her like school role play at the moment.
Yeah.
So she's using her whiteboards, and she's setting all her babies up on the carpet. So she needs like that space to do that instead. So I definitely change things about a lot, but I'm not just doing it for me, for the fun of it. I'm observing what they're doing and how they're playing, and I'm finding the best way to allow them to access that while it still looks nice in my house.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
we don't have a huge house. We've just got like that open bit downstairs, so you have to just maximize the space you've got as well.
Yeah, we're the same, our because we live in a split level flat, like we still have upstairs and downstairs, but it's like, our living room is devoted to being
a play space essentially until
Yeah.
until we can move. And because of situation with our cladding and everything, it's been that we haven't been able to move, because I dare
Yeah.
say had we been able to move, we probably would have gone by now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just we're the same, we're just managing it. And something I've done in, I don't know, last couple of months is actually brought our craft stuff back in, and had it a bit more like free to access.
Yeah.
And I used to have it in one of those IKEA trolleys, and I had it all in like lovely little boxes, looked lovely, and it just got destroyed, and it was just a bit of a nightmare. So I ended up just wheeling the trolley into the cupboard in my hallway and was like, I'll forget about it. But I
Yeah.
was like, no, I was like talking to some other parents that I'm in a group with that home educate as well, and lots of them were talking about like free access craft stuff, and I was like, but their children are a little older than mine, and I was thinking I'm going to give it another go. And what I actually did was we did it on the 2-level Kallax unit, because I was thinking like, my daughter, she's fine, she's 4
Yeah.
coming up 5. She also loves to cut up tiny little bits of paper. They're
Yeah.
everywhere. It's like confetti in my house all
Yeah.
the time. It's nice to know that somebody else does it, because every day
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
more paper
Little
for
tiny scribbles on, little tiny like made up words on. Yeah. It's just everywhere.
like I'll go down, like if I'm like a night like today, like my podcasting, and I'll go down and I'll be like, what's happened? My husband's been down there and there's like paper everywhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we gave them like this free to access craft stuff, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, last time it was an absolute nightmare. But actually, my son, who's 2, he can't really reach it. I mean, he could stand on like one of their little chairs
Yeah.
and get it, but he's not really that interested at the moment. And so it's actually working quite well at the moment, because she's
Yeah.
up there all the time like creating, and he just doesn't care. I mean, we had a
Yeah.
few like instances where like people were sticking things in the paint sticks, and we're trying to like teach them, you need to put the lids back on things or they dry out.
Yeah. Yeah, we have that with the whiteboard pens at the moment. That's the
Mhm.
new thing. It's like this. I started with 6 and we're down to like 2. So I'm just like, yeah, we need to look after these pens. But yeah, I definitely think they change and evolve. And as you know, having two or multiple children, they aren't always into the same things, and you've
Yeah.
kind of got to adjust the space for both of them as well. And Evie and Molly are very different children. Like they will play together occasionally, but they are very different in what they would play with,
Yeah,
and
I would say
what
that
toys
as
we
well.
have. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
So
definitely say that with my 2. I notice they don't play the same. And I guess when you have like 2, 3 more children, you think that they're going to sort of like follow the same. But my son is very, very different in the way he plays compared to how my daughter plays. But different people with very different personalities, who like to
yeah,
come together in a fist fight every now and again.
like happy slapping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, in your experience, do you think there's a difference in play in neurodiverse children compared to maybe neurotypical children? And, is there a way that you think parents can better support their children if they're neurodiverse in their play?
Yeah, I think you will notice. I noticed definitely with Evie, it might take a little while. You have to kind of be a detective. Um, I mean, like, because she was my first daughter, and I'm a big Disney fan. I was a very girly girl, the things I played with. So, your instinct as a parent, I think, is to buy the stuff that you would like as a child and kind of be like, look, we're going to play, Fisher Price princesses, and we're going to do this, and we're going to have a doll's house, and we're going to have a baby doll. And she just didn't care for any of that. Like, she honestly couldn't care at all. And it wasn't until she was about well, when she was about 18 months, we worked out that she has had the puzzle, like she loved a little puzzle. And then she started doing really quickly, and up until that point she'd been classes like delayed a lot in a lot of her development stages, but suddenly the puzzles were like, this is her thing. So she used to spend hours just with all the wooden puzzles out around her in like a little circle, and you'd literally take all the pieces out and she'd just repetitively do all the puzzles over and over again. And you think, well, this is fine, you know, she's doing the same thing, but I think they play a lot of repetitive. They like to finish things and start things, finish things and start things, so like a start and an end toy, in comparison. And then we also noticed, like, because all the puzzles were stored in like a plastic tray fast box, she would turn it upside down and just balance on it. She'd just watch TV while standing on top of a box and just wobbling. And we were like, okay, so she likes to wobble, she likes to balance. So then we sort of bought the stepping stones for her second birthday. And she just used to go back and forth on these stones, back and forth, like, and then we noticed she was like lining them up in rainbow order every time. So it was around that time I decided, right, I'm going to get rid of all these plastic toys that she clearly doesn't like. She doesn't want to play with the dolls, she doesn't want to play with this. So I invested in like a load of wooden toys, a load of the loose parts. We had all the like big colored discs and stuff, and we soon worked out that she loved to organize. She loved to just color sort, and she would sit there for ages. And it was only at that point really with her that we could sit down opposite her and actually play with her, like on a how you expect to play with a child.
Yeah.
So they are very solitary sometimes in their play, because they're in their own world and they like to do their repeated thing or their hyper focus. But we could actually start playing back and forth with her, like, I'll sort one out and you sort one out. And that's sort of where we then could introduce some of the things like that they'd kind of taught us in the therapy play, sort of teaching her things. Like, she wasn't very social and she had hardly any social skills, but they sort of said it's not that she's never going to have them, she just needs to kind of be taught them more so than like a neurotypical child. Like with Logan, I just played with him and he just picked stuff up, and I don't think I ever sat there and went, right, today I'm really going to teach him how to do this.
Yeah.
I just played with him and he learned things along the way. I didn't have to focus too much on it. But with Evie, it was very much like, okay, I need to teach her how to do this, and she's going to take a little longer to understand it. But you've got to do it in a way that she's going to be engaged. So we would start with the sort of turn taking of sorting out the colours, and then you sort of from that point you do the social skills and the sharing, and you can kind of, it's still what they want to do, it's still their favourite thing, but you've got their interests straight away. And that's sort of what we did as well with like the turn takings. You know the little car ramps where you drop the car down and it goes down the ramp. So she loved that. She could play for hours just dropping that little car down. So that's when, like, when we first had our first speech and language therapy session, I said that's a real favorite toy of hers. So they taught us some methods on how we could implement turn taking with it, by like catching the car before she did, and then being like, mummy's turn, and you had to do a lot of like gestures, like patting you, mummy's turn. So she'd look at you and then you take the car and then it was her turn. So you're still playing the game she wants to play, but you're kind of teaching her on the side as well. And that's sort of what we had to then do with her, to teach her a lot of the other things that might come naturally, I guess, to children through play. And so things like sharing and playing with other children came later. I would say there's definitely more solitary play. But yeah, just finding out their interests, working out what they love, what they really enjoy, and allowing more opportunities for that play to happen. So, you know, if they like balancing, we bought a wobble board. We did different things that allowed her to have that physical play and that feedback from it. You know, we bought the swings, we got the pulley things and the swinging, and she has a great time. Like, all of her play is physical or it's sorting, and that's what she loves to do. So you can definitely tell the things they like, but it might just take some time. I wouldn't say it's an instant thing. You think, oh, I know my child, I know what they like, but for a long time we were like, well, she likes puzzles. And even now, like, she's nearly 7 and I haven't got a clue what to get her for Christmas, because she just, like, I asked her yesterday, I was like, what would you like to ask for Christmas? And she was like, I don't know, chocolate. She really does. So we are going to get her monkey bars as like her main present, but it's kind of like I don't know what else to get. But we've got things like Scrabble, and like a couple of like the mind games and stuff. But it's hard. It's not like oh, she's 6 years old. What does she like? She doesn't like lol dolls or anything else that a typical 6-year-old girl probably likes.
Yeah.
You just have to investigate and work it out, and also I find the hardest thing is explaining to others that your child, like, they look at things and go, what, she really wants that, or like, she really wants that. I think when she was 3, she had on her Christmas list 1 to 100 wooden block board, and I think someone was like, really, that's what she wants? I was like, oh, she is going to have so much fun with this, like hours. She just sat and sorted those 1 to 100 numbers out, and she had a great time. But yeah, it's so it's sort of putting past the judgment of these are the toys that you think a child might like at this age, or you liked at that age, and it's not. It's having to watch what they play with, give them an open room full of toys, and see what they are drawn to and what they like to play with.
Yeah, it's really interesting because while you were talking, I was thinking about like, so because we home educate, I immerse myself in both like school education and home education as much as possible, but I was thinking about like how often definitely a lot in the home education community talking about like, oh, you can just leave your child to learn through play and just leave it at that. But it's really interesting what you were saying about Evie and how yes, play was a massive part of it, but you still had to teach those skills that maybe she just needed a little additional help acquiring. And so it just goes to show, I was just thinking while you were saying it, that it's not like this one size fits all where you can just be like, oh, play is amazing, they can just do it and they'll learn everything they need to. Like, of course play is amazing, but it's not as simple as, it's sort of like a very neurotypical approach to it, isn't it? Like,
and I think it's like a neurotypical child would probably just play and learn things as they go, because they'd ask questions, or there'd be back and forth conversation maybe at the same time, but you don't always get that. And often I said, like, since I had 2 children with extra needs, I can't look at a toy anymore without going, oh, good problem solving and fine motor skills, because in my head that's what they were delayed in. They had to work on their fine motor skills. So it wasn't just a case of, I'm going to get some toys out to play. I was like, oh, I'm going to get the pegs out so we can practice like our fine motor, or I'm going to make a box with a hole in so we can practice getting like those pom balls like in the hole. So you have to like, and people used to always like, you sometimes get those comments on Instagram and stuff like, oh, well, it must be nice to have all these nice toys. And I think, well, I kind of have to, because I'm having to teach them so much more. I'm having to really focus on, what they in order to progress in life, like fine motor skills are everything. If children want to feed themselves, if they want to use the toilet, they need those fine motor skills. So it begins with play. It begins with, simply as putting a ball in a hole. You've got to get that preciseness done. So you definitely, the way I view toys and what I've got out is like, okay, so this week maybe we're going to really focus on our fine motor, or this week we're going to really do some problem solving that's going to link in with like emotions and resolving. Because like one of Evie's biggest challenges was like she had 0 patience, and I know like not a lot of children do have patience, but you've got to like control that 0 to 100 anger, because she couldn't do something. So it was like a working out. We had to teach her how to say help. That was like one of the first words we taught her. And at first it was a gesture, like it was a come and grab us, help, just so that she wasn't then just screaming, because she did a lot of just screaming because she had no words and she had no process of being able to say, I need help with this. It was just a scream. So it's sort of, there was a lot more teaching to it for sure than just play, but all the basis of it was we are playing. And even like Molly goes to psychology, and you think, oh, going to see like a psychologist and stuff, but do you know what, the lady plays with her for the whole hour, and it is play. And she is the only doctor that Molly has ever spoken to. So Molly is selectively mute, and she does not speak to anyone outside of the home that she does not know. And we obviously got referred to psychology because of this and her anxiety, and she's the only doctor she speaks to. But I generally think that's because we walked in her office and she was sat on the floor with a doll's house ready to play, and she got Play-Doh out, and she's not talking directly at Molly, she's talking while they play, and it just calms her and relaxes her, and she's used her voice there, you know, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
But it definitely is, the basis is play, and same for speech and language as well. Their entire therapy sessions are based around play, and it's just really helps. It's like we can focus on goals and targets by doing some play, and it's just, yeah, you have to be smart about it, but the kids, as far as they're aware, they're just playing, so it's all good.
Yeah, and I think, you know, children, they really appreciate, you know, when you're down on their level. And, you know, sometimes even like in our home, like, I'll be like talking to the kids, and I try and remind myself to like get down to their level. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm so, you know, so often, you know, I'm going to be hunched, but, you know, so often it's like a top down, you know, like, right, we're going to go and tidy up now, which nobody listens to, but I like to
yeah,
try and encourage it. And but, you know, I just try as much as possible to just get down, you know, crouch down, squat, wobble,
yeah,
and just, you know, try and talk to them at their eye level at least, so they don't feel like I'm just like looming over them all the time. And,
yeah.
you know, I think just, yeah, just getting down with them and getting at their level, you know, can really help. And obviously, you know, getting down and playing with them.
Yeah, and even if you just get down and start playing with something, and you don't say anything, you just start playing, and the attention suddenly there, oh, someone's playing with something over there, and they come over and they join, and can I play? Or you know, just start playing as well, and oh, should we sort these out together? And anything like that can just, and for my girls, because eye contact is a big problem, they like if you're playing with them and you're not looking at them. So you're
Mm,
both focused on the toy in front of you, you're not looking at them directly. Whereas that just makes a whole difference to them, because the pressures off them, you can feel them relax, because you know we're focused on the toy, we're not focused on me. And it
yeah.
really makes a difference with play. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Just makes me even think, like, as an adult, I'm not a great fan of eye contact.
Mm.
Like, I do, you know, it makes me uncomfortable. I'm never more comfortable than in the summer months when I can put my sunglasses on.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's interesting actually, because Molly went through a whole phase where she loved a pair of sunglasses when we were out, and we were waiting in the pharmacy for some medicines once, and the lady was like talking to her in the pram, which I'm always like, oh, don't talk to my kid in the pram because I hate it. Um, but it was funny because Molly had the sunglasses on and she felt fine with the lady looking at her. And I said to the lady, like I said, she said about the sunglasses, and I said, oh, I think she likes it because she thinks people can't see her because everything's a bit black to her. And the lady was like, oh, she's disappeared. And then Molly lifted her up and she, oh, there she is. And then she played that game for ages. And like when I left, I said to her, I said, thank you so much for that little game with her. I said she really liked it. I said, but yeah, it's definitely with her, as she loves to have a pair of glasses or something that just makes her feel like she's hidden.
Yeah,
She does the pram hood a lot as well, so like she can see under it but no one can see her as well.
yeah, yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely hide behind my sunglasses because I think I'm so introverted as well. That most of the time, like, you know, I have to for home educating, I have to force myself to
Yeah.
be extroverted, for the children. And so
Yeah.
like I have to like rock up at new home ed groups with like, and the worst thing, like, everybody's lovely, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to socialize with human beings. And so
Yeah.
sunglasses are perfect. So this is not my time of year now because I have to like show up
Yeah,
as
need the
myself.
hat on now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll have a hat on, a balaclava.
Yeah. No,
But yeah,
to be fair, I'm exactly the same way. I have to like, it's the whole build up to going somewhere. Like I want to go somewhere, I want to do something, and it's the whole build up, and then suddenly you're just like, okay, I'm here and I'm fine, but I would have been panicking about it
yeah,
beforehand. But yeah, I think as I've grown as a parent over the 10 years, I've definitely pushed myself a lot more out of my comfort zone for the sake of them, things that I wouldn't have dreamed of doing. But I was like, nope, I'm going to. And especially with what happened with the girls, and like obviously people do stare, and Evie was very traumatized in a lot of groups that I tried to take her to that maybe I would have took Logan to, and I sort of had to put a brave face on. And I worry a lot about what other people think, but I had to do that whole like tunnel vision, like I'm just concentrating on my child and getting her to her safe place. I don't care what anyone's else looking at. I perfected the whole I'm not looking at anyone else, and I'm just going to remove my child from the situation in the calmest way. But yeah, lots of learning about everything
And I
as I've gone
suppose,
through.
yeah, I suppose as well with Molly when she was a baby and having the tube, you know,
Yeah.
but that probably encouraged even more people to look.
You used to get the like shock from people screaming, like Evie would be screaming, and then they'd look at me and see Molly with the tube and be like, oh, the pity now as well. Oh my god. Like my best exit was at like a gymnastics free play, and I literally had Evie like surfboarding under one. I had Molly strapped to me with her tube, and like she'd been like refluxed or something, and I was just like, I was crying. My mum was crying behind me too because I dragged her along, and I was just like, what am I trying to do here? Let's go home, let's shut the door, let's not let anyone in, it's fine. And yeah, after that I was just like, I don't know why I keep pushing myself to take them out when clearly they're quite happy being in. And obviously then lockdown happened, and actually I know lockdown was really hard for a lot of families and a lot of people, but for us it was amazing because all the pressures and society's expectations for us were taken away, and it was absolutely fine for us to stay at home. And Molly had the healthiest year of her life because she wasn't exposed to anyone else's germs. And Evie, you know, she learned to talk in that year. She had her brother playing with her every day. We did loads of like sensory play because she never would touch like any sort of sensory play, and we slowly bit by bit. And I remember the day that she put like a foot in some water beads, I was like, oh my goodness, like this has taken months, but she's here and she's doing it. And it was so good, like the ability to just slow down and be like, let's work on all these things. And yeah, by the end of lockdown she was talking, she'd caught up loads with her speech, all because like we were just taking our time at home every day, and we weren't, you know, trying to go to this group or go to that group, and we just could play at home. And I felt more comfortable because I wasn't thinking, oh god, I need to go out, or I need to do this or anything else. We just played, and yeah, they had a great time, and Molly learned to walk and everything, and it was really good. So, but I know it wasn't the same for everyone. But then I think we'd already kind of been stuck at home forcefully through their needs, that it was kind of like we were given permission to stay home actually now and not have anyone judge us for it. And it definitely took the pressure off a lot of things and allowed us just to concentrate on everything. I think we'd had 4 weeks of speech and language therapy before lockdown happened, after I'd fought for like 18 months for it. But luckily in that 4 weeks I'd learned enough of the skills to implement it in our play at home, so I could continue. So I continued all their therapies through lockdown from the little bits I knew. Yeah, it worked fine. We did it, we managed it. So
yeah, I remember like, you know, watching you on Instagram during lockdown and stuff, and different things that you set up for them and everything. And you know, I kind of feel the same about lockdown. Like at the same time, like I know it was an awful time. To some extent, I do think that I've like repressed 2020 in my head. Like I'm like, that didn't happen, right? Like
yeah,
it wasn't real. But at the same time, like I just, you know, we only had one child then, and like it was fine. Like
yeah,
I was happy being at home. Like I'm a homebody anyway. I love being at home, and
yeah.
you know,
It
while
helps.
the outside world was a little terrifying because we didn't know what was sort of going on, and my dad was ill. You know, he had heart problems. Like, he had to have 2 heart surgeries in the
Yeah,
first 8 months of the year. So you know, that was a lot. I think all of that is why I've just repressed it.
yeah,
But you know, I did enjoy being at home, and you know, because of, I mean, that whole year was just a bit wild, really. And we had to like, we had to be almost shielding because of my dad had double bypass surgery in the August, and so to be able, we had to shield to ensure that we didn't catch anything, so we could bring him home healthy. And then we just pretty much like locked the doors and was like, right, we'll see you in like October. And
definitely.
just like, and so he went, he was like, he had to go and see his consultant in like late October, and he said as long as he had all clear after that, then he would go back home after that. And then we went into lockdown in November, so it's like literally like just come out. But and then I was pregnant by that point, and I was pregnant in the summer, so I was like, it was just, that year was wild. Hopefully, I read a news article not that long ago, and it was like something about preparing for the next pandemic, and I was like, oh no.
Not in our lifetime, please.
I'm not participating in that, thank you, I did mine.
Yeah, definitely.
No more.
It was just out of nowhere, was it? Yeah, because obviously at the start, with before we knew anything about it, like in our Sen world, they were basically like, any child that has respiratory problems is going to die from this, and that just terrified us. So we just locked ourselves down. I pulled the kids out of school like a week earlier than they sort of did the official lockdown, and I was just like, we are staying home, we're not seeing anyone. Like, we just closed the door. Like, my brother had just flown back from Thailand, and I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing you. I saw him through the window. I was like, I honestly can't have anything bad happen to Molly. And because she'd been so poorly with like the common cold, we were just terrified for her. So it really reinforced for us the rules and what we were going to do, because we didn't know enough about it. It is hilarious how actually she was fine when she had it. of all the things, we spent like a week in hospital last year with chickenpox, but COVID she was fine with.
It's like we were pretty much, I think me and you were like pretty much like, right, we're locking down now, ahead with like everybody else. But like ours was for like the older members of our family, and because we've got some people in advancing years, let's say, and we were like terrified of what was going to happen to them. When they've caught COVID, they've been absolutely fine. They've done the best. Like, literally, like, they'll test positive in like 3 days, like, barely any symptoms, and 3 days later they're fine. And it's like, oh.
But no, did we? I feel like we prepare for the worst so that we're fully prepared. That's just how we do it.
And I think like COVID today and COVID then were like two very different things. I still say to my husband, like, if we ever talk about it, I'm like, I think like the main goal was not to catch it at the beginning, and
before we knew much about it,
and just get through that. But it was a wild year. It was wild 2 years, really, wasn't it?
When I look back though, like, the kids, they just look so happy still all the time. They were just playing, they were just having fun. They didn't really, I think that helped me as well with having neurodiverse children. Like, I remember Evie was obviously just turned 3 when it happened, and so many people were like, oh, my child keeps asking when they're going to go in a nursery, or when they're going to see their best friend, or and I thought, Evie knows nothing about the world around her. She couldn't care less who she saw yesterday or where she's going again, and she honestly said not one word about the fact that we suddenly just were inside all the time, because to her she just didn't care at all. And I think that obviously helped a lot with adjusting to home life and not going anywhere. But I was just like thinking, that's a different life for us here. She's literally just like, cool, we're going to play again. And obviously we had like the best weather ever that time as well.
It was amazing, wasn't it?
I think she actually spent her whole summer in a big plastic box with water in. She was quite happy.
I mean, my daughter, she literally just turned 1. She turned 1 in the February, and then we went into lockdown in March. So I mean, she doesn't even have any memory of any of it. Sometimes I'll say to her, like, do you remember before your brother was born? And she's like, no.
Molly's latest thing is because I changed obviously the pictures on my gallery wall. She loves if there's a picture where she's in my belly. That's like her favorite thing. So we've got like the Halloween pictures up at the moment. So there's 2 photos of me pregnant. One's with Evie in my belly and one's with Molly. And she's obsessed with it, and she talks about it all the time. I was like, do you remember it or something? Like, let's talk about it. She loves it. And we I got them from Aldi the other day. I got them those like Halloween chocolate lollies, and she remembered that she had a picture on the wall with her eating one when she was like 2 years ago. And she goes to Logan and Evie, "You've got to sit on the stairs." And they were like, "Why?" She's like, "Sit on the stairs, Mummy's going to take that photo." And she got them into the same picture as on the wall, and I was like, amazing. But yeah, so she loves looking at all the photos, and we do like a year photo book. And it's funny how you think you'll remember everything you did in the year, but that's why I take lots of photos, because it just reminds me of all the fun things. And then I remember as well, like, oh, actually they loved that play activity, let's do that again.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they loved when we did this. Like Molly, one of Molly's favorite things that she remembered doing last year is when we did the gallery wall, we went and picked some leaves to put in like box frames. So when I got out again, she was like, "Are we going to go get the leaves?" So I was like, "Yeah, let's go get the leaves." And like simple things like that for kids, they just love collecting the leaves. And we got a little bag, and she was like, "We've got to fill the bag all the way to the top." I was like, "Okay, let's go." And it's simple things like that that she just loves doing. It's great.
Yeah. I recently we went on a little nature walk, and we just like took a little basket. We literally just walked around where we lived and just picked
Oh,
up.
I love a basket, don't I?
Yeah. I especially came upstairs for the basket. I was like, this will complete the activity if we
Yeah.
have the basket to carry. But yeah, so she loved it. She picked up all the leaves and acorns, which she calls squirrel cones, and
Oh, I love that. Squirrel cones.
squirrel cones. Yeah, so just sometimes just like those really simple things are just, they just love it. And she
Yeah.
just,
And it is, I think it is just getting to know your children and what they like and dislike, and like you said, not trying to one size fits all, because not every kid's going to like doing that. You know, Molly could probably pick leaves for ages, but Evie would pick like five and be like, "I'm done, I've done the activity, it's complete." You know,
yeah.
it's just different kids like different things.
Yeah, and we didn't take my son when we went. We left him with Ray, because yeah, he wasn't that interested. Like I take her to forest school, but if he comes along as well, he's always like, I'm just not really that interested. So I,
Yeah, so
I,
she's a
I
nature girl.
yeah, I just generally send him to my mum's, and he's more than happy. He gets to spend time with them by himself, which is rare, and he
Yeah.
doesn't have to go to forest school, so he's quite happy.
Yeah, it's great how they're all so different. Like I actually think Logan and Molly are very similar in how they play. Like they are those kids that are very good at independent play.
Yeah,
Like Molly, you just leave her to it. She's got all her babies. She knows what she's doing. And like Logan was the same. He'd build a train track and he'd play for hours, like doing his little train like things and stuff. Whereas Evie's very much like she'll play by herself if she's got like a brain puzzle thing to do or like a puzzle or whatever. But she's very much like they play a game together. So they are all so different in what they like to do all the time. So,
yeah.
but yeah, it's interesting to see those different personalities coming out.
Yeah, my daughter, she's very good at independent play, very, very good at imaginative play. Like, when they're doing imaginative play, and you watch them and they're like, what? Don't be watching me,
Yeah,
don't
I
be
know.
watching
I
me.
always have to film Molly from like a distance, because I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm so interested in what you're saying, but if you see me looking at you, you're gonna
yeah,
be like, she always just turns and goes, "Go away."
yeah.
I'm like, I want to know what happens. Just tell
Yeah,
me.
tell me what happens next. I'm interested.
She does so much. Like all of her play is obviously things that, so because she's selectively mute at school, she says nothing, like not one word, but she clearly, because she's not talking, she's obviously taking so much more in by listening, and she will come out with complete phrases that clearly her teachers say or other children say, and she just does that in her play. And I think she's learning about the world, she's just listening to it all rather than like interacting with it. So yeah, she's definitely learning different things, because I think I have not taught her like those phrases, or I've not taught her how to do that. Like the best thing is I have no idea how she's so naturally good with playing with a baby with a bottle, because she was never bottle fed because she had a tube. But it's like, how do you know that babies drink from bottles? Because we've not had any younger baby, like, well, my nephew was born after her, but because of COVID we didn't obviously see him much as a baby, and I'm just like, how do you know this? It's almost like it's instilled into them to feed this baby and do things. But yeah, she does a lot of medical play because obviously that's what she knows a lot of. But then I feel it's not a bad thing, you know. She might be training to be a future nurse, you don't know. So
I
she
don't
knows
know.
that.
You never know.
So she's got this going. But yeah, it's good because then like I often set up a few different dolls, and I'll like wrap kitchen roll around some of their arms and stuff and be like, oh, they pet their arm or everything. She loves that, loves a little setup play. So it's all good.
It's funny. My daughter, she'll mimic me breastfeeding, but she was bottle fed predominantly, and her brother will always feed with a bottle, and he's breastfed.
And he's never he's never
And he's
seen that.
never seen a bottle fed baby. I was having a decluttering spree, because of course I was, and I found 2 old baby bottles in the back of the kitchen cupboard. It was like the best. Sorry, my phone's ringing.
Is it him? I want to come to bed.
No. No, it's just my mum. This should be fun. Anyway, let me restart that. Yeah, so I was decluttering the back of this cupboard, and found these 2 bottles, and they absolutely loved them. Absolutely loved them.
It's like a real thing as well, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and then all day my daughter was like, was this bottle mine, and was this bottle brothers? And I was like, no, they were both yours. All day she kept asking me the same question. I was like, no, it wasn't.
I think they do love when they know it's a real item. That they like. I've got loads of like my old mobile phones, and Molly loves just carrying one around in like her pretend handbag and using it. And I'm like, it's because she thinks it's like a real item, you know.
Yeah.
She always gets her oven gloves as well. And when she goes to her play kitchen, she gets our actual oven gloves. And like, probably if she had a play set, she wouldn't bother, but she likes to use the real item from the kitchen. And like, okay.
Yeah, they're so funny. They're so funny to just observe and stuff. So we were talking about how, you know, you've taken a lot of like the therapeutic methods and stuff to put into their play. What are some of those methods or approaches that are really good in helping children with their play?
So obviously the main thing is like to work out what their interest is. Like, you're not going to be able to keep them calm or teach them more things if they're not interested in what they're doing. So like, you definitely have to pick something that they're going to be interested in, that's going to hold their attention. You can like things like, if your child likes posting items, like what a lot of the things we do in speech and language is, they might have like 2 flashcards and they've got to identify one, but then they get to post it in a post box after. And it's something as simple as that reward of posting in a post box that will allow them to pick, you know, which card is the picture of the hairbrush. Then they'll pick it up, they'll get it right, and they get to post it. And it's working out what's going to be their motivator and what you're trying to achieve at the same time. And also, I think knowing when not to push it any further. So like, when they're done, just leave it. Like, don't keep pushing it with things like that. And so like, we did that with the turn taking with the little car and the ramp, and Evie didn't know she was being taught how to turn take. You know, it wasn't like we were trying to play a board game and going, it's not your turn, it's not your turn, it's not your turn. That's really hard for a child because they just don't understand. Whereas the repetitive action of like, mummy's turn, Evie's turn, mummy's turn, Evie's turn. And by the time she did return to nursery after lockdown, she had it down. She had the turn take and she understood so much more. And it was just something as simple as that, like the repetitiveness and working out. But you have to pick your moments with it. You have to make sure they're having fun, that it's an interesting toy. So it's got to be on the right level for them. You can't sit down and be like, right, we're going to do this today. Same as I'm sure you don't do with your home educating. You're not going to be like, right, we're going to learn this today. You're going to just set some things up, and if you navigate towards that bit, that's what you're going to do today. And it's definitely the same with like the play therapy, and making sure that you're not pushing them and just observing their mood. You know, if they're not in the right mood for it, you're not going to teach them anything. They're not going to take it in. But if you've got an opportunity and you think, you know, she's getting really frustrated with this puzzle, she can't get it in, So we're going to sit down and we're going to, you know, find a way to teach patients, or say, help, mama, help, and then do that item. And then that's just that little moment. So I think a lot of the time people think like play therapy is like an hour solid, but it's not. It might be like 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here, and you're doing it literally all day, and but they're playing all day. So it's just every opportunity you have. I remember like I had to fill in a form once, and the health visitor was like, one of the questions was like, how many hours of therapy do you do a day? And she was just like, well, what hours is Evie awake from? And I was like, well, she's awake from this hour to this hour. She goes, well, that's how many hours of therapy you're doing, because you are teaching her all day long. And I was like, you're right, it's kind of constant teaching thing for her. But yeah, like she and just having that person say to me, like, it's not that she can't do these things ever and she's never going to be able to do them. She's just going to have to work really hard on them, but you've got to do it in a way that's not boring and it's not repetitive, and it's not that she's going to hate it. You've got to just teach her along the way. And she's made so much progress in the last few years through it. And yeah, I mean, you never know. Was it the home lockdown session? Was it, you know, was it being exposed to school and routine? I don't know with her, you know, it could be a combo of all of them.
Yeah.
For how she's improved. But yeah, she went from at some point being delayed in every area to now, like, we're experiencing in some areas she's way above where she should be, and in other areas still, like, her social side is still, you know, it's always going to be harder for her.
Yeah.
But if she's surrounded by people that understand her more, then life will be easier for her. So yeah, it's just a balance and working out the exact times to do it. But yeah, I always say to any parent that feels like they might have a new diagnosis, or, you know, they've realized their child is autistic and it feels overwhelming at first, but it is just saying, you know, they're still your child. They might not be the child you anticipated or expected, but that can happen to anyone. Like, you can expect a girly girl and you've got a tomboy. You can expect a boy that likes trains and cars and, you know, he actually likes putting princess dresses on. Like, every child is different and unexpected, and they're not going to play with the things you want or expect them to. No matter what toys you buy them, they will gravitate towards the ones they like. They'll find them, whether it's in a park or someone else's house or anything else. And I always say, like, don't overthink it. You know, they're still your child, play with them, but you might just need to look at it different. You might need to just adjust your play approaches. You might need to play the same thing over and over again, and that's what your play is with them. So it's like us with Evie. The only time we got to play with her is if we were sorting and organizing toys out, which sounds bizarre, but you know what, to me, I actually like tidying up toys and sorting things out into boxes. So we had a great time. I was like, is this my fault?
So the next generation of decluttering is coming right up behind you.
It's great. It's Logan. He used to come home from nursery all the time with a sticker like, I helped tidy up, and she'd be like, oh, it was great, he put all the cars back in the box, all the trains back in the other box. And I was like, oh god. Like, all my kids love to tidy up, but that's just because I'm doing it and they're just joining in. I don't like force them to do it. It's just what they enjoy doing and sorting things out, you know, that's how they play.
Fantastic. I know we already touched on it a bit, but we're both big fans of like toy rotation. So can you share what your approach is to toy rotation and what it looks like in your house?
So as I said before, with the, like, I've adjusted my setup for how I display toys. So for a long time we had like the cubes, and I did a lot of like the invitation to play. So it wouldn't be just as simple as, you know, putting a puzzle out, putting a shape sorter. It was kind of putting the puzzle out, but making sure, like, I used to stand it on an IKEA iPad stand, so it was upright so you could see it. And then the puzzle pieces were in a basket next to it, because it invites the child to complete the puzzle. And I used to love it. It's almost like every time I did the toy rotation, I used to love that first hour where you like release the kids back in. What do they find interesting? And I like to sometimes, like, for my own enjoyment, I like to do a little bit of a theme. So I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do like an animal theme. So we'd get the animal puzzles out, and we'd get the like the animal, like, little magnet people, and so different things. And I'd always make sure that for both of the children, they had something they liked to do. So like Evie had something organizing, and it's just amazing the difference in, one, less toys, so they're not overwhelmed with choice, two, fresh toys. Like the amount of times people will store all their toys in a toy box and the kids can't see them, they don't know what they've got. And also just being able to sort of have the space to play with their toys, so not making sure that every surface has got loads of toys on, so they've got nowhere to sit and play with the toy. And I also love that, I know like people like to tidy up after each toy, but actually sometimes combining two toys together can make a whole new game. So like Molly loves to take all the loose wooden parts and put them in her handbag, or pretend she puts them in the baby's like bowl and stuff. So, you know, you've got like the little screw wooden bits that screw into the thing, but she's using them to serve up to the baby. And I think like making sure children have like being able to cross over toys and not just saying, right, you've played with that, let's tidy that up and do something else. So yeah, I changed the cube so they'd have like a maximum 8 toys. Obviously every child's different, so like Logan had his favorites, so he would always have access to like his trains and cars because they were his favorites, so they were never rotated round. But then I'd bring out like, you know, maybe the big like small world play mat for his trains at the time, or we'd bring in the animals for his trains. And so like it's working out what your child likes to do, whereas Evie had no attachment to any toy in particular, so she'd just be interested to see what we had out. And then same with Molly, because she's similar to Logan, she always has her babies available to her, they're always there. But it's just setting up little things, like the other day I made her a register and I left her colouring pens out, and I got her the phonics flashcards out so she could play school, so she had like all the toys to be able to do schools. Or setting her up like a baby station, and then having like the little medical center and stuff, and getting the doctor's kit out and stuff. So it's with her, it's very much like she likes a theme play, and you kind of set half of it up and she'll then just take it off on her own. But yeah, in my garage I basically just have all the toys in like clear little plastic boxes, and I might group similar toys together, so like all the wooden toys might be together, so we might just have a tabletop of wooden different toys to play with. Some will be like based on skills, so like fine motor skills, so we'll have like the little threading lacing boards in with like the little screw things and stuff like that. That's all like hand focused toys. So then just sort of just changing them around. And I always rotate like a big toy, so like the ball pool, I don't know if you own a ball pool.
Not anymore.
Me neither. But like stuff like that, that's a toy, like I can't have that or the toy kitchen or something out constantly. So like I do a big toy rotation, so like that will be out for like a month or two, and then it will go away and hide, and there'll be a fresh new toy in a couple of months. And it's definitely like the amount of people that probably have a toy kitchen that sits in the corner and doesn't get played with every day. But I know like if I get mine out for a month and then put it away again, that it will be that favorite toy again when you get it back out. And it just helps as well with feeling less overwhelmed in your toy space as well, especially for those with smaller houses. And like we haven't got a separate playroom, and their bedrooms aren't big enough to go up and play in, really. Like they're basically got their beds and a wardrobe in. There's like a small bit of floor space, but there's not really, they don't have any toys that they play with in their rooms. It's all downstairs. So yeah, being able to toy rotate brings just fresh ideas to them. And that if your kids are fighting, doing a toy rotation will guarantee you at least an hour's peace after, while they investigate everything. But yeah,
I recently, when we did our last toy rotation, like I think we're going to do one this weekend, I made the mistake. Well, actually, it wasn't a mistake, but we bought all of the toys in, every single box, and bearing in mind that my garage is down like 4 flights of stairs. I said to Ray, bring all of the boxes in. We are going to sort through anything that doesn't have if there's missing pieces, if things are broken, or if I just can't stand the sight of it anymore. It's going. And like the problem was, we did do it with the children, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, because they're like, no, I want that. But we did manage to like like we don't have tons of toys, but they still accumulate. And so we did manage to get rid of loads, you know, like we got rid of things that were just broken, and like donated some as well, you know, like just stuff that you guys are not playing with this anymore. You know, it's they've outgrown it. And yeah, so we did sort it out. But what I'm terrible for doing is I want to get it like perfect, and then I'm like, I want to take a picture of it, and but everybody wants to like dive in, and I'm like,
get that little hand in.
I'm like, Ray's always like holding them back, like he's about to let like cows out of the field.
I find though, like I used to always take pictures of my toy rotation, because then I remember like what things I did set up, or what I put with what, and what worked well. And it's funny, like you might think in your head, because you do it yourself, oh, toy rotation's easy, and people often also always say to me like, how do you work out what toys you're going to put out? And I was like, to be honest to you, there is no method. I just get a box and go, oh yeah, and I'm putting stuff out. Whereas I know a lot of other people need ideas, and so by taking pictures of them, and I think like I've got highlights on my stories of just different toy setups to give people ideas to. And then obviously I get the same. I gain ideas from you, I gain ideas from other people I watch, and I think, oh yeah, that's really good, I could put that on there. It just really helps people, I think.
Yeah,
toy rotation.
I'm the same as you, in that I just will open a box and like, right, let's see what we can create out of this. And it's funny because it's always Ray that goes down to the garage to get the box, and he's always like, which one do you want? And I'm like, not the one with the musical instruments. I'm never in
slime balls.
Yeah, I'm never in the right frame of mind. I always bring in the musical instruments around Christmas time, because I'm like, that's chaos anyway, so we might as well just go all out. So yeah, we haven't had, actually the drum made it in, because sometimes what happens is we'll be getting other things out the garage when we're down with them, and somebody will be like, oh, the drum, because they can see it through the clear box, and I'm like,
I know. I always get that. Martin will be like, why have we got this out? Like the ball pool, every time he'd be like, oh, is it time for the ball pool again? Like, yeah, we're going to be picking those up after bed, because we do like to reset, like once the kids have gone to bed, we do like to reset the living room, just because it just makes everyone feel better. And yeah, it's always like that. Oh, when it's ball pool rotation, it was like, oh, but yeah, we got rid of ours now. It was great fun while the kids were like that bit little, but they got too big for the thing, and it just ended up being balls everywhere. So,
yeah, we got rid of our balls as well recently. Actually, when we were clearing out the garage, I was feeling around this bin bag, and I was like, that's balls. Get rid of it. It's gone. I don't want it anymore. I don't want to
have to wash those anymore.
Yeah, we're the same. Like I think there's nothing better than coming down in the morning and it feeling clear, and that just makes, I think, it just definitely puts me in like a better frame. If it's all like caving in, I'm just like, no. But
definitely,
especially, you know, in a small space as well, it's
just setting like one little activity. Like the other day I just got the you know, like the little wooden shapes where you have to match them to the picture, and I just sort of put that on like the little desk, and straight away there's always a child that's just like, oh, that looks like it needs to be completed, and they just gravitate towards it. We've had a lot of like the brain teaser puzzles out as well, where you've got like all the pieces and they only fit in a couple of ways. So like Evie will spend ages just sitting there on it, and it's great because like she's getting to the age where she's playing more on like her iPad, and she's fine if you can get her off it, she's okay, but you've got to give her things that are gonna, it's almost like her brain's at that level where it needs that much interaction, so you need to find her things that are going to challenge her away from the screen as well. So yeah, those little brain teaser puzzles are really good for like Christmas presents and stuff for their older kids. Like she used to do so many puzzles, but now she doesn't really sit down and do a puzzle anymore, but she does like a challenge. So if it's a puzzle challenge, it's even better. So yeah, when I got a boggle as well ready for Christmas, I think she'll love to see what words she
yeah, it was one of my favorites.
So yeah, so I saw that and I thought, oh yes, yeah. And we recently introduced her to Uno, and she loves that as well, like games like that. So yeah, it's definitely good.
Excellent.
Good to have different choices of games.
Yeah. Well, it's been so wonderful to have you on the podcast and share with us everything about play, and especially play in neurodiverse children. So where can everybody connect with you online and find out your wonderful, wonderful toy rotation pictures?
I'm gonna have to check my toy rotation pictures out, aren't I? So I am just really an Instagram girl. I feel like I'm getting too old to catch. I couldn't do Threads. I tried Threads. I couldn't do it.
I popped in briefly.
Yeah.
I remember about once every 6 weeks.
Yeah. And I was just like, no, I'm very much Instagram. So I've still had the same Instagram I've had for 11 years. I'm at Samsu Dreams. And that's sort of where I share a lot of reels. I do a lot of like awareness for Molly's syndrome, Cornelia de Lange syndrome. I do a lot of advocating for like autistic children, and maybe like the battle to get them diagnosed and stuff. And then obviously share all of our toys and what we like to do and how it helps link that in with therapies and stuff. So, and our general day-to-day, what we're doing. And Truth Mum's like going, oh, they're fighting again.
Yeah.
And then just like normal house stuff as well, you know, if you love a bit of organizing and decluttering and you want some inspiration. I'm very much like, I like to be inspired by others and also inspire people and be like, let's do this. So
and you can always I think me and you, once the weekend rolls around, we're like, right, what can I declutter?
Project my hallway's the next one. Since winter's back and the coats, I'm like, I need to sort this hallway situation out with the coat pegs, because we've just got like one of those like really thin walls, and the coat peg we had before was just kept falling off the wall, and I was just like, right, I'm gonna panel this and I'm gonna put separate hooks on so they're stronger. That's my new next project for the weekend.
So everybody can come and follow you and come and find your next decluttering project, toy rotation, everything.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
You are more than welcome.
Oh my goodness, what an amazing conversation with Sam. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was just so interesting to discuss play and toys and those differences between neurodiverse and neurotypical children as well. So don't forget to go and follow Sam over on Instagram. Her Instagram account has changed since we recorded the episode. She had some issues with Instagram, so you can follow her now at the Humphreys Dreams, and I will link it down in the description so you can follow her. So yeah, go and check her out. She shares some amazing things, all the fantastic things that she does with her children. So be sure to go and check her out there. You can check me out as always over on Instagram at The Slow Living Collective, and you can check out the website theslowlivingcollective.com. You can also check me out on Substack, which is where I host my membership. If you haven't heard about my membership, come over to Substack. Check me out. It's theslowlivingcollective.substack.com. You can join as either a free or paid subscriber depending on what works for you. So come check me out in all those places, and until next time, I will catch you in the next episode.